Welcome, everyone, to our 61st monthly webinar. Thanks for tuning in. Lauren Cowher here, your host and Customer Success Manager at WriterAccess. We're really excited for our special guest today, Michael Gerard, CMO at Curata. Thanks for joining us, Michael. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great. So this afternoon, Michael's going to walk us through some insights from the major survey that his team at Curata conducted, their fourth annual, of 600 marketers, to learn a little bit more about how they're surviving and really thriving in this increasingly crowded landscape, or jungle, as Michael's aptly put it, of content marketing. We're particularly excited to have you today, Michael, on the heels of the first annual content marketing conference that took place last month in Las Vegas, with the help, of course, of Curata's sponsorship, that brought together over 150 professionals and 27 speakers from all over the country to share the latest industry trends and insights. One thing of several that I found interesting about the conference was seeing where folks stood in terms of understanding the importance of content and really the need for an articulated strategy. You know, it wasn't so much a rah-rah, here's what content marketing is and looks like, but really a roadmap to overcome some of the biggest challenges that content marketers are faced with today. You know, things like delivering performance, measuring ROI, building the dream team, tapping into the right tools and technologies, and really correlating the creation of content with revenue growth. So, all really key points that I know you're going to walk through us in greater detail today. Out in Vegas, we were able to listen to your colleague, actually, Randy Bernard, deliver a great presentation on content curation, a best practice that you folks at Curata certainly help companies architect and execute, and an increasingly important one that all marketers should really be considering as they take their efforts to the next level. It's really an essential piece to maintaining a strong online presence. It's an easier lift than, say, an infographic, and it's certainly an opportunity to gain further trust with your readers. So with that in mind, I think everyone here today is excited to dive into your knowledge and to hear how to really stand out in the content world, and myself included. So before I pass the baton over to you, I wanted to quickly address just a few quick logistical things here. One, everybody listening, definitely ask questions throughout the presentation. I'll be monitoring those and surfacing them at the end for, a 10 to 15 minute Q&A session. Everyone will be receiving an email either later today or tomorrow in the morning with links to listen or download today's presentation, so be on the lookout for that. And before we wrap up at the end of the presentation, you'll see a final slide that offers a few links to download some books from the WriterAccess side, as well as the latest ebook from Curata. So stay tuned for that. And without any further ado, Michael, I'm going to pass it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate it. Very excited to be here today. And let's see. Let me get your pass over here and pull up my slide. Make sure we take care of that. All right. There we go. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. Very excited to be here. A little bit of introduction to give you some context and help you out in terms of where the insight, the data, et cetera, is coming from. First of all, myself, as Lauren mentioned, I lead marketing at Curata, and I've been with Curata for a little over 2 years now. Prior to that, my most recent job, I had spent 10 years at IDC, a large market research firm, leading their CMO and their sales advisory practices, doing lots of fun research for marketers out there. Curata specifically, we've been around over 8 years now, and simply put, we provide software to help marketers scale their content marketing supply chain, do it in a data-driven fashion, and ultimately to grow leads and revenue. There's two products that we've been selling to our customers, over hundreds of customers. One of them is our content marketing platform, which includes a calendar and workflow to improve content creation efficiency, as well as a great analytics engine to identify, hey, what content works and doesn't, and it integrates with Marketo, Eloqua, Salesforce.com, and Google. And then, as Lauren had mentioned earlier, we have industry's leading business-grade content curation software. We help folks fuel their content marketing engine and complement your own created content. So enough about Curata there and a little bit of background, and let's get into the presentation here. And I should mention, when we say content marketing, that we're defining this as the process for developing, executing, and getting the digital content and assets to create, to nurture, and to grow a company's customer base. So it's really content to help engage your customers at the top of the funnel. It's to help nurture your marketing leads in the middle of the funnel, and it's to help sales enablement and to close deals in bottom of the funnel. So the content marketing really from top to bottom here, just to make sure we get that definition correct. All right? So starting off, welcome to the content marketing jungle. So those of you out there that have been in content marketing for a bit do know that it is a jungle. It's early in its development process, but at least from a digital marketing perspective, there are a lot of organizations that are still trying to find the right path for success through this jungle. Trying to identify, hey, what is content marketing and how do I communicate what it is throughout the organization? Over half of companies that we see have no executive in place for content marketing. And there are many paths to content marketing success, and folks are struggling to find out what the best are. And I'll share some of those best practices that we've seen, as well as some of the worst practices. And I'll tap into the results of our recent 500-plus participant survey, interviews, and other customer experiences we've had as I share this information with you. Okay? So just think about your own organization. And I was watching a couples retreat with Vince Vaughn when I thought of this analogy, for those that have seen that, about the different animal spirits. And so where do you fall? First of all, I'd like to start with the leader, right, the one up front. So I put in here the fox. Why the fox? Cunning, strategic, clever, quick thinking, right? So the fox encourages us to think outside the box. It's also a reminder that we have to use all of our resources, seen or unseen, internal, external, to accomplish our goals. Okay, sometimes they're unorthodox methods, and we have to experiment, certainly in this still early stages of content marketing. The next one, the elephant. Strength, stability, patience. They're great characteristics, but in this rapidly changing environment of digital marketing, this animal spirit can hinder progress in sometimes. And it impacts sometimes the need to quickly adapt to a changing buyer's needs. The wildebeest. So the wildebeest follows the pack, sometimes to its detriment, and always fears falling behind. So as companies search for their content marketing path, many inevitably are going to move with the rest of the pack for either fear of being left behind or a hesitancy to jump out in front and take a chance, which we really need to do, right? And finally, hopefully you're not going to be the extinct T-Rex, but I know there are a number of companies out there that are either there already or they're well on their way. Okay, so as we go through here, think about your organization. Where are you? And most importantly, I'm going to highlight it in our interviews and our actual data. Hey, what is the fox doing? What are those best-in-class content marketers doing? And how do we get to that point? Okay. So let me provide a little bit of detail about the source of the insight, where content marketing is today, and then the framework I'm using for this content marketing overview and the results that we got from the study. I'm really putting in this context of strategy, so it's the 50,000-foot view of what folks are doing, what folks are doing from a staff perspective, process, and then technology. Okay, I always like this people, process, technology framework, and some resources at the end. So source of the insight, I mentioned, just personally, my years of experience at IDC working with lots of marketers out there. Did some quantitative research here with this survey, so I'll pull that in. You can see that the stats in here. We have a number of folks from B2B. We do have some B2C mixed in there, but I'd say it's mostly a B2B perspective. Lots of good verticals and also some good representation for different company sizes. Okay. So the current state of content marketing. So where are things at today? Certainly marketers they're getting content marketing, at least the content marketers do in their organizations. And this is with us too, historically at least, is that we do an ebook. We go, hey, look at how many shares, or we're getting some good downloads, but no real insight in terms of how many leads is it generating, and did I create enough content that I should have from that ebook and other stuff, right? So there are a lot of marketers out there that are still struggling, right? So if I look at the data and do some analysis, I'd say about 3/4 of folks are trying to figure out which path for success, because there are a lot of variables in content marketing, no doubt, from your content strategy, the SEO side of things, the where do I get the content from? Is it quality? What's the impact of it? How do I promote it? So a lot of moving parts. Love the minions. right? I love these guys. So couldn't help but bring them in here. So if I think about the 25% that are doing something right, this is who I really want to focus on, as part of this presentation and sharing with you, get in their heads and what are they thinking and what steps, what actions are they taking so that you could determine, hey, should I emulate that? So first things first, are you asking the right questions? And so think about, once again, your own organization, looking inward from a strategy perspective. Do we have a content strategy? How do we fuel our content engine, within the current budget? And then what do we want to ask for, for our future budget? What are our objectives? Are they in line with corporate goals? What about our metrics and targets? People, hopefully you or you have somebody that leads content marketing, great. So the next step is aligning across the organization with the right parties. Process-wise, where do we optimize that investment of content marketing? Is it creation, expanding into curation, doing more promotion, etc.? And technology, a huge part here. Historically, there would always be this, process first, then technology. Well, I got to say, speaking as unbiased as I can, of course, is that technology plays a significant role nowadays from a process perspective, because the best software organizations out there are building process into their technology, and they try to engender it and then pass it on to their customers. Okay. So let's start off with this high level of content marketing strategy, the 20 to 50,000 foot view, and then we'll dive in deeper. So I mentioned earlier, we've seen certainly marketers that they see the potential of content marketing, and with our annual study, we got 76% of companies increasing investment in content marketing this year, right? So that's a good sign, right, that they're increasing. But if I take some data from our friends over at Content Marketing Institute Marketing Profs, you can see that their recent study, 70% of B2B marketers, they're creating more content than they did a year ago. So I think there's still a struggle to almost throw the dart at the dartboard with a blindfold on, in terms of, hey, what content should we produce? And I'm not really sure what's been produced across the organization, and I'm not really sure how to reuse and repurpose. So they're creating lots of stuff, and it's not just them, it's other folks across the company. So lots of I'd like to say opportunity, if you will. Now, of course, think about it from the buyer's perspective. There's no doubt that lots of buyers are in a state of content shock. And it's not just from the overwhelming amount of our own content we're sending out, but we're competing with other companies out there that have nothing to do with, competing products to our own, right? Because we're competing for that time that each of our buyers, each of these individuals has to actually read content, to actually interact with content. Okay. So once again, if you can, rise above this noise, above this content shock, there's opportunity here. So let's get into some of the data here. And one of the key things, so I was putting together the actual survey to go out for this technology and tactics study we did, is where are the challenges, where are the priorities for folks, and where's their money going, right? And what was really interesting is, the first two challenges, the first two priorities for content marketers were understandable, a bit disheartening, if you will, but it was really more of a give me more, right? So the first thing was limited budgets, need more staff, need more money, which is great. I do too. I tell my CEO that all the time. But at the end of the day, we have to first, make the most with what we have, and we have to demonstrate that we're making an impact, right? Second thing, right? Give me more. We need to create enough content on a regular basis. And I think a lot of folks, when they think create content, they think we have to create new content. And so we have to think more about how do we reuse and repurpose versus just creating more content. So that's our wildebeest view, if you will. The fox, more cunning, more strategic, better leveraging resources. Now, what's the fox doing? The fox is thinking a lot about finding the best sources to create amazing content, right? Thinking more about quality, thinking more about where they're going to get the content, and making sure that it's right, dead set on target and relevant to the needs of the buyers, the audience. Second thing, this content marketer, this fox, they're thinking about two things with respect to the pipeline. Number one, content marketing, it impacts top of the funnel all the way to the bottom of the funnel. And we got to create content for those different stages. And then second thing with the funnel, we got to measure the impact of it. We got to get deeper than our our very high-level vanity metrics, beyond the shares, the page views, get into the, hey, how many leads has your content generated? How many opportunities in the sales pipeline have it generated or influenced? Okay, so really important to dive deep into those areas. So that's a quick run through from the strategy side. And you'll get a copy of this whole deck, and certainly at the end you'll see a link. You can download this entire study, the PowerPoint deck, and reach out to me with questions. So as I go through, if I'm going fast in a couple of these slides, definitely opportunity to catch up afterwards. So we hit strategy. Now let's get into this staff perspective and see what the plans are for this year of these best practitioners. So you got to have someone in place driving this effort. It can't be a part-time job, this content marketing thing. Lots of folks creating content across the organization. They certainly have for decades, but someone's got to coalesce it. Someone is going to drive a consistent strategy. Let me orient you to the chart here. So we asked folks, do you have an executive in your company who's directly responsible for content marketing strategy? And we've been asking this question for a couple of years, and we asked about next year as well. And you can see the green there. These are the folks that said, yes, I have somebody who's responsible for that. 2014, 43%, 49% this year. Next year, we expect the number to increase to 60%. So almost 2/3 of folks, going into 2016, are going to have someone responsible for this. Okay. Hopefully you already do. Now, early on, a couple of years ago, there was lots of buzz about this chief content officer. And in this study in particular, we asked the title for folks that participated, and I was really interested to reach out to folks that said, hey, I'm a chief content officer, because I want to know, hey, what do you do, and how do you fit in, and how do you become a CCO in a B2B company? Right, not a media organization or publishing things for business, but he's selling widgets, software, whatever it might be. And then, are you at the same table as the CMO and the CEO? And so, as I reached out, it was even the small percentage of folks in B2B organizations that filled in, yes, I'm a chief content officer. They were more really the director of marketing or the VP of marketing, but it's a good thing. They saw themselves as taking on this really leading role for driving content marketing across the organization, right? So it's not the specific formal title that's important, but it's what you do with that responsibility. And I saw that from the largest of companies to even the 1 to 3 person size content marketing teams. They're thinking about, how can I create best practices? How can I align across the organization? How can I work with other folks, the social media team, the product marketers, the CEO providing content, the tech team for helping with technology? How can I create a center of excellence there? Right. So I think that's real important versus saying, hey, a content marketing person should run everything on their own and create all the content and manage it all, and it's their practice. You're really taking on this role, which, albeit extremely hard, is put in this position of having to manage lots of deliverables that you're not responsible for the people that are creating it. Okay. So what's a big part of this? I mentioned alignment. And we asked specifically, as part of this study, how aligned is your content marketing strategy and tactics across your internal teams? You can see the teams there as an example. And interesting enough, you see the all companies in blue, and the leaders are foxes in green. And most companies, they're still in this somewhat aligned phase. And so once again, lots of opportunity here. And so you see that the very aligned or extremely aligned, we have over half of the folks. The foxes, it really plays a key part here, and you can see how much stronger they are from an alignment perspective. And so we got to think about, hey, let's reach out to our marketing operations person or team, and our content producers, the product marketers, and our social media team to market our marketing. Okay. So alignment, really key factor there. Can't be stressed enough. So just to summarize here, from an organizational structure perspective, what's the fox doing? So you can see 71% of the content marketing leads, these teams, they have global authority. They're building the center of excellence team, and even if you're just a one-person group in a small company, there's still this need to develop some process and to align with the organization, with your content creators, because many times these are folks that don't sit in marketing because they have some expertise, and you have to twist and do other things to the content they produce so that your audience actually gets it and it doesn't look like it's egocentric. Okay. So build out that content team, not just internally. Tap into freelancers. Reach out to your peers at other organizations. Find out who they use for writing. Look at Odesk. Tap into some agencies. There's some wonderful agencies out there. If you check out our blog, you'll see a whole list, an open list of agencies you can tap into. Build out that team, that external team, and work with them. Okay. So that's our organizational structure. So we hit the strategy, we hit the people side of things, and now let's get into the process, get into the real meat of it here. And there's lots of things from a process perspective for content marketing, and I want to hone in on 3 key areas to help make the biggest impact for you. First one, production. Second one, distribution. Right. So some publishing, but more around promotion. And then third, last not least here, actually almost first, is analytics. Do you know what works and what doesn't, and getting into the metrics of it. And it was really interesting because if I look at production, as we look at our first one here, there were 3 common areas or themes areas that came out as part of a common theme here. And it's production. It's being that fox, being more resourceful with your investment. And it broke down into, hey, understanding what content is out there in your organization already, how to reuse and repurpose it, and how can you tap into the community. How can you collaborate better? How can you curate internally and externally in order to better leverage your budget? So let's dive into each one of these. And the first one is content in your organization. What content have you already produced? What content have individuals in other parts of your organization produced? And unfortunately, it's sitting in many different repositories across your organization. And there'll have to be some upfront work to identify what's out there, and then moving forward, there'll have to be some process put in place in terms of, hey, who's creating what content where, and how do we make sure that we as content marketers know about that and work with them to create more from it, to make it better, to reuse and repurpose it. Okay. And so first thing that comes to my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, hey, I know we've produced a lot of content. I know it's specific areas that'll help our audience. But what do we have? And so we asked folks, coming back to the survey here, how often do you complete an audit of your company's content? And great, there's some good greens in there. You see, what is it, 20, 30, a third of folks are semi-annually or quarterly, so that's great. What stands out is over a third of folks, they never even complete a content audit. So look, this doesn't have to be some, formalized process that takes 6 months. Start small. Start in a certain segment. Start in a certain product line, a certain area. Right? We got to know what content we have, what content we don't have. By overall, by persona, by buying stage, by vertical. Yeah, and that'll help us with our creation and curation processes. So what are our gaps in the inventory? Okay. Hey, you want more budget? Did you already leverage the content you already have, right? So let's do our best to avoid duplicate content. Improve the quality of the existing stuff, right? So we can take stuff that's been already produced, even if it just wasn't good. It got horrible results and it just bottom line sucked, right? It wasn't that good. Work with that content. Tap into a freelancer if need be. That's awesome at repurposing content and making it better and turning it into a rose for you. Okay. So next thing, this recycle, and let me take it a step further in terms of what I was getting at with that reuse and recycle. And we specifically asked folks in this study, we said, describe your process for reusing and repurposing content. And that includes, presentations, infographics, blog posts, creating all sorts of other things, or atomizing content from a larger piece, like an ebook or a white paper or whatever it might be. We have percent of study participants in our Y-axis and our X-axis. You can see we have 4 different categories. The blue is all companies. The green is our fox, the leaders. And I always like to look at the green there, right? And it's good that the fox is a little bit ahead here, but it's good to see that there are a good amount of companies that have some type of reuse or repurposing going on. and the majority of them sitting there with, it happens sporadically. Well, we got to stop that. It's good that some of it happens sporadically, right? You want to have some of that on the edge for innovative activities. But there's got to be more of a process as to how to reuse and repurpose content, right? We got to apply a framework here, some structure to help out with that, because that's how you're going to get more bang for your content marketing buck. Okay? So just to share a little bit of insight in what we've done over the past couple of years here at Curata. And, offering content marketing software, content marketing platform, curation software, it's really important that, in marketing, I want to make sure that we do our best, right, to apply some best practices in content marketing. And so we're trying to do that. We work with a lot of our customers around it. And one of the most important things for us is that when we create, an ebook, a heavy piece of content, that comes from primary research, right, a survey, or maybe it's interviews, or maybe it's just some thought leadership. I create that ebook, that white paper. I then want to think about, hey, how am I going to reuse and repurpose the content? How am I going to atomize that content? And so what we do is we apply a pyramid structure to this, called our content marketing pyramid, where at the top of the pyramid you have this actual input to the content via primary, secondary research. Then you have the heavy contents. The heavy stuff's at the top. Right? This is stuff that is gated typically. It takes more from a resources perspective, and it sits on our owned property in many cases, right? And we're using our earned and paid media to drive traffic to that owned media. Okay? So we have our ebook, for example. We then create infographics from it. We'll create a presentation from it. Then we'll dive deeper, right? It gets more bite-sized as you get deeper into the pyramid. It's smaller pieces. We're using different channels for this. So we'll create a long-form blog post that goes on our own blog. We'll create shorter-form blog posts. We'll syndicate content, right? We'll create some content that we can contribute to other folks' blogs. And then last but not least here, as part of curation, we'll do social media, et cetera, that'll, once again, drive traffic up into the top of that pyramid. Okay. So our goal here, we want to create a pyramid. It's a content marketing pyramid. It's all, essentially a content campaign. Nice way to integrate your content creation efforts. Nice way to make sure that you're in alignment with the company's overall strategy, right? So we'll have several pyramids going on at once over a 3 to 6 month period that support our overall marketing strategy. Okay. So there's more information in a blog post that we have about this. You can see the link at the bottom, and hopefully it helps just to provide some structure there. So the third part here around production that really came out, and that's hey, we need to better leverage our community. We need to collaborate more effectively across the organization. We need to curate information and content to complement our own created content, right? Put it alongside the created stuff. And why ultimately here, for production perspective, we need to feed that content beast, right? And so tip of the iceberg, above the water. Internally, we can't create enough content every week. We struggle to create that great content, and as great as your own content might be, from an external perspective, buyers want other viewpoints. They want to read other content, and they're going to go elsewhere, regardless of how wonderful your content is, because they want to see other perspectives. And so what that does is that leaves open an opportunity to yes, keep working on creating that great stuff, but make sure and curate stuff external to your organization as well. Bring that external voice in. And this 2 years ago, we did a study. I didn't ask the question this past year because we dove deeper into some other areas, but we specifically asked a year and a half or 2 years or so ago, what's your desired mix of content marketing based upon created, curated, syndicated. And you can see really the target here is that a quarter of your content is curated. So you're tapping into external content experts and bringing it in. And it's a great way to do influencer marketing too. So think about this 65, 25, 10 split. The syndicated predominantly is represented by analyst reports. External folks that are writing content that you then share with your own audience. Okay. So there's a mix for you to think about. Now, I've been saying content curation a number of times, and I just wanted to take a quick couple minutes here to get at, what in the world is content curation specifically, and add a little bit more meat to the bones here in the next couple slides. So if you've ever done a best of blog post, best of across the internet, or commented on, or shared a link on Twitter, or posted a link to Facebook with some commentary in there, there's curation for you, right? So it can take different forms. It can be used in different channels, and you're not alone here. There are many folks out there doing curation. When their blog, their microsite, when their website, is part of their ebooks. So it's a great chance to tap into the external community and build some credibility for yourself, as well as add more value to your audience. Definition. Maybe this is from my IDC days, but I always like to have a formal definition or taxonomy feel of what is something. So content curation. So we're talking about an individual or team that's doing this. This is not aggregation, without any individual human input, right? So you got an individual driving this. They're leveraging technology, but it's not, touchless aggregation. They're finding content out there, right? So, you either do it manually with duct tape, or you leverage a self-discovery engine, self-learning discovery engine, like we have with our content curation software. Get out there, you find the best content in it, brings it in, you annotate it, right? So you organize it, you write a little bit about it, and then you share it with your audience. High quality relevance, etc. I think we're all good with that, and people are up on speed with that. But at the end of the day, curation, it's finding it, it's annotating it, it's sharing it, all important aspects to it. So a little more tactically, instead of speaking just a high level of curation. So when you're thinking about content curation, a best practice to do this, you find that piece of content, you find a great blog post or article. So for example, this one's by Jasmine Henry had put together this piece, 15 Habits of Legendary Content Creators. Right, so we found this, said, hey, I'm going to share this with my audience. Specifically here, we shared it on our microsite, it's contentcurationmarketing.com. We put a new title in here because I don't want to fight with the title that Jasmine had already created, right, from a Google SEO perspective. So new title, new thumbnail. Did some introduction to Jasmine's piece here. Hey, it's a great piece. This is why you should read this, and then brought a snippet in. Right, here's two things I liked, but I didn't bring the whole thing in, right? Because I want to curate ethically here. Next thing here, I provided some insight. Maybe difficult to abide by all 15, but try 8 to 10 of them. Right, put some insight in there, and adds a little SEO juice too for my curated piece. And then clear attribution. Right, I gotta put that right in there so I can be ethical. I'm not pirating here, and I can send folks right back to Jasmine's piece. And of course, Jasmine likes that, right? Because I'm sharing Jasmine's stuff here. It's giving some notoriety, and then they get a link back going back there. Okay. So that's the tactics around curation and action. We do a Curation 101 session every 2 weeks. You can sign up on Curata.com on our front page for that. You can get some more details and examples of that. What do you share curated content on? Certainly social media, social curation on your blog. Put it right next to your created stuff. Newsletters, corporate sites. You can see examples of what folks are doing. The dedicated microsite, huge opportunity there. We see IBM doing it for their big data and analytics site. Even IBM is curating content, for their big data microsite. We see those examples all across the industry, and I think that's still picking up steam. So think about that and how you might have a custom microsite to add lots of value to a specific segment of your market. I mentioned when you're doing curation, if it's done right, it's not pirating. There's some 6 tips here. We have a whole ebook on this, Content Marketing Done Right. Check it out. I went through the top things in what's a curated post. So I think I covered most of them. When you repost to an excerpt, make sure you link back, retitle the content, don't use no follows on your links, right? Because some software vendors out there, they have no follows built in, and you don't want to do that because that takes credit away from the original publisher's content. Okay. So a couple other things there. You can take a look at that as follow-up. So we talked about production. We talked about collaboration as part of that. We talked about a couple other areas. Let me get into distribution now. And you think about distribution, you got your owned media, right? You got your own blog, you have your website, your microsite. It's important to tap into earned media. It's important to tap into paid media as part of that. And so bringing the data back into the discussion here, we asked marketers, and I should specify, this is from a blogging study we had done a couple months earlier, because I thought this was pretty interesting to bring this piece of data in. And so we asked marketers, content marketers, specifically around their blog post. We said, hey, who's responsible for the promotion of your blog posts, right? And you can see that in general, overall, all three bars, if you put them together, social media team, blog writers, editors. First thing that jumps out to me is, great, folks, Seth, 2/3 of folks are tapping into the social media team. But you still see, hey, there's a third to almost a half in some cases of blog writers are saying, I'm going to also get involved with respect to promoting my own blog posts, right? So really important that you do that. The gold bars here, there's a group we had pulled out. We called it the 10K Business Blogging Club, folks that have 10,000 page views or more for their blog. So these are the Fox, if you will, for this blogging study we did. And you can see these folks, boy, do they leverage their social media team. And just like the middle folks, they also get involved with respect to the blog writer actually promoting that stuff. So do remember, you've created that great content. It's not a build it and they'll come, right? So you got a team of that social media team, and don't drop it there. Promote it yourself and get creative around that process. So last thing here in this process area, you can guess from this quote here: half the money I spend in advertising is wasted. Trouble is I don't know which half. We've all heard this. I think about a year ago, I came across this quote. I said, you know what? Content marketing fits right in there. And that's just where we're at right now in our industry with respect to content marketing. And so I think even getting the slightest inkling of, hey, what part of our content marketing is working and how do I do more of it, would be a ton of value relative to where we're at today. So we asked folks in this tactics and technology study, we said, hey, how effective are you at measuring the impact of content marketing across these parts of the pipeline? Because I was curious as part of the study to see, hey, how well are content marketers doing it? That the tofu, the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, or the bofu, the bottom of the funnel. Blue is all companies, green is our foxes, our leaders, and then you have the percent of study participants. Okay. And as I look at this, the first thing comes out is that there's been a pretty big impact here from folks in terms of top of the funnel. So that's good. I'm glad to see that. But what I really want to see is more impact at the middle, at the bottom of the funnel. And you can see that our foxes, our leaders, they're doing that. By creating content that's more specific to the needs of folks in later stages of the funnel. They're working with the sales team to understand the needs of that. Okay. And so let's dive one level deeper here in terms of this, this lower stage of the funnel. And we asked, estimate the impact of your company's content marketing investment on the following areas during the past 12 months. And based upon this, you can see that from awareness building to buyer engagement, SEO, thought leadership, et cetera, there's a more impact at the awareness building stage. But we do see this hey, the Fox, they're really making some impact with lead quality and quantity. So if you've been mostly impactful at the top of the funnel, don't give up. There is lots of opportunity to impact lower on down, right? And that might be content that has to do with ROI analysis. It might be tools that'll help folks with making a specific purchasing decision about what types of technology to do. And those are just two examples of content that would be more specific for that bottom of the funnel. Okay. Getting more specific around metrics, right? So key area here, and this is a whole discussion presentation on its own, and we did a whole ebook on this guide to content marketing analytics and metrics. So definitely check that out. But a real top level, think about looking at performance metrics and operations metrics, right? The performance metrics, that's the ones we're more familiar with, the page views, the shares, the subscriptions, top of the funnel. But dive into that marketing and sales pipeline impact. Marketing, how many marketing leads did I generate as a result of individual pieces of content or groups of content. Sales, how many opportunities have I generated? Check out that ebook. It goes through some of the more duct tape methods or manual methods to get at that. And certainly happy to chat with you with respect to how the Curata CMP content marketing platform, helps get at that almost instantaneously, tapping into your Marketo, Eloqua, or marketing automation, as well as Salesforce.com. Second one here, operations. Think about how much content you're producing, what the cost is, what your throughput is, what your inventory is like. Okay, so there's lots there in that metric section. Just wanted to provide you that high-level framework and a resource that you can tap into. So let's finish up here. We talked about people, process, and just finish up with respect to technology. Technology, it's a huge area that there's lots of opportunity here, but there's lots of noise out there as well. Bringing some data in here, we can see 68% of content marketing leaders are increasing their investment in marketing technology this year. So it's good that there's lots of investment going in here. We've heard the quotes from Gartner and Forrester and Serious Decisions and Altimeter and others. And there's no doubt, the direction that spend is going in this area. But where should the spend go from a content marketing perspective? And so, one of the questions to help you out think about where you're at is we asked, really detailed, hey, do you use an editorial calendar as part of your content marketing process? And this is, of course, a real part of deploying your content strategy and orchestrating your content creation efforts. And so you can see that, let's look at our fox in the green here, that 77% of those folks, they use an editorial calendar. It's part of our regular process. We go to it on a regular basis. And we asked for the next 12 months, the folks that aren't using it today, are they gonna? And you can see by the 2016 middle or so, end of it, you're going to have 91% of folks are going to be using the editorial calendar. So if you don't have one yet, you should have one. Get the correct attributes in there. Check out the editorial templates that we have in our blog. We got a whole list of templates you can tap into. And if you really want to be a power user and get your most bang for your buck for content marketing, take a look at leveraging technology for that editorial calendar. And it's not going to just help you with the orchestration and management of content production, but it's going to put in the basis for great content analytics. Okay. A third of companies have either moderately or fully integrated their marketing and Salesforce automation systems. Right, so I think a lot of folks overlook this, when the content marketing folks, because many times this responsibility sits with marketing operations. If you have Marketo, if you have Eloqua, if you have even Pardot, Acton, these others, are you integrated with Salesforce.com? That's going to be one of the key success factors to get at. Hey, what's the impact of my content in marketing's part of the pipeline and sales part of the pipeline? Okay, so if you don't have that integration, chat with your marketing operations person. Get to know what's going on over there. And as part of that work with your marketing operations person or team, it's going to help build the relationships that you can tap into them to help you identify, hey, what should I do from a content marketing tools perspective? Because there's a lot of stuff out there, and I want to make sure I'm chatting with the right vendors and I'm asking the right questions, and that it's going to integrate well with what you're doing marketing ops on your side. Because those marketing ops folks, they have lots of great experience in that, so do team with them around us. The chart you're looking at right now, this is created by Pawan Deshpande, our CEO, and we update this quite frequently. There's a link down there for it, Content Tools Universe at the bit.ly. And you can see that there are many, 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 many tools in this area. So we've done our best to categorize them, put some examples of companies in there. And another source, certainly you saw a link earlier that Lauren had up, Byron's top 103 content marketing tools. So get to know the tools out there, speak with these vendors, tap into their content marketing activities to get smarter about the areas. And if they're good, they'll provide you some good non-egocentric content that'll help you learn. All right. So let me just wrap up here. We covered a lot of ground here in our jungle. First things first, build your content team. Those are internal folks or external folks. Think about how you're going to create that center of excellence. We all need more budgets, but how do we identify some opportunities to better stretch the dollars we have today? repurposing, reusing content. If you're not already curating, look into content curation. Try to do it in the most efficient, effective way possible. Performance measurement. All this money going towards increased investment in content marketing. If it hasn't happened already, your CMO, your CFO, they're going to turn to you and say, where's all this money going? I need some justification as to why we should A, continue investing in it, and B, increase investment. And then do tap into the power of content marketing technology. There's lots of great opportunities to do that right now, lots of good solutions out there. Get to know the vendors well and work with your marketing operations team as part of that process. Okay. So that's just a real quick wrap up. There's certainly some content marketing stuff we've been working on over the years to help you out. Check out curata.com/resources. Lots of good stuff on content marketing metrics and curation and blogging and our pyramid. And then certainly, if any of this from a subject matter area looks interesting to you, reach out. Love to chat with you, of course, about how we're helping marketers scale their content marketing, and with our content curation software and our content marketing platform. Ultimately, what content's working and isn't. Are the content teams aligned and productive? And bottom line, how can we improve that productivity and impact? Okay. So thanks very much for your time. Let me pass it back to Lauren. I think we might have a little bit of time here for some questions. Lauren?
Hi there. Sorry, I had myself on mute.
No worries.
Thanks so much, Michael, for the really thought-provoking presentation today. I think we'll probably leave it on your screen here until we're ready to fully wrap up. But there's a lot of really great data and some important ground covered as far as best practices are concerned, really across the board with content marketing, the roadmap, so to speak. So to maximize your time, that we have with you here today, we'll pop right into some of the Q&A questions that we have. I think first, people are curious to know really how you guys went about compiling, the data for your survey and how you distribute it, and if you can talk a little bit more about the actual logistics there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I could only guess probably two reasons. One is some background to add some insight into where the data came from. The other one, thinking about your own organization and doing that primary research. So as we did this, the most time spent is up front is to what's the topic we're going to focus on, and what are the questions we're going to ask, right? Because that's the hardest thing, and that gets to looking out as to what answers do I want to produce for my audience, right? What are their burning needs? And so we put those questions together. We got solicited input from our own customers and from our own audience, and then we went out, we surveyed folks, brought it in, analyzed the data, up, down, left, right, and try to pull the key takeaways from it. And I think the most challenging, but the most valuable part is, okay, this is great data, but how do you bring it together to communicate to folks and then put it into the right types of assets that'll be of value to people? So hopefully that answered their question. Great.
Yeah, and I really loved the "Give Me More" slide. I thought that was really important, and I think that buy-in is a huge barrier for a lot of companies. I think particularly those who are new or just stretching their legs with content marketing and not able to bring sort of hard ROI metrics to the table. What advice would you have for marketers who are trying to manage the purse strings, so to speak, and get senior leadership to really make content marketing a priority?
Yeah, I've been very heartened in seeing with lots of content marketers and the CMOs of these content marketers that they've said, this is a real key priority for me from my CMO. So I've heard that surprisingly high number of folks as part of this research and the other work that we're doing. If your CMO, if your team is not there yet, then the best way, two of the best ways to do it. One is to tap into external resources for that, external experts, right, and research. Be it the research that Curata has produced, be it the research from WriterAccess, be it the research from Content Marketing Institute, the B2B marketing profs folks. There's lots of good stuff out there. So if you can use that, it's a nice, unbiased way to demonstrate, hey, there's opportunity here with this content marketing. The second thing is look for quick wins across your organization, right? So that there are no doubt people producing content in different parts of the organization. Identify just some small pockets where you can do something fun, exciting, and have some impact. And it could be content marketing, top of the funnel. It could be sales enablement activities, right? Creating some great pieces that you can help your sales folks better connect with their customers, especially if it's a longer sales cycle in your company.
Absolutely. And how about the asset side of the coin then? So, at WriterAccess, we see all different types of clients, from sort of solo marketers to mom and pop shops to SMBs to agencies. And I think the how much is enough conundrum is one we hear, all the time. And so how would you recommend folks go about determining sort of like a production baseline, or where do you think, is a right place to begin there, and what's the real balance between sort of quality and quantity?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that I think we experiment with on a continuous basis throughout. And that's the best consulting answer. It depends, right? But I would say take a look at this blogging study. I'd put a link in there for, because we asked folks about, hey, what's your frequency for blogging? And just as blogging as an example, we did find that this 10K club, right? Folks with 10,000 plus views in their blog. They were blogging, at least weekly. The other thing is I think about the bigger piece of content. So we strive to do, about one large piece per month or so, per month. Per quarter or so, a really large piece. And then we have a content marketing pyramid for each of those large pieces. And so we might have, like I said, anywhere from 3 to 5 pyramids going on over a 4 to 6 month period. And what that'll do is that'll focus your efforts on the heavy duty content pieces, but it'll give you some strictness around reusing and repurposing that content versus going on to the next big thing. And always leave a little bit open for experimentation. Right, it could be newsjacking or leveraging some news out there, or some activities, or some holiday, or just something you want to experiment with. So you always want to have something that's 10-15% of your content that's just, hey, for fun, let's experiment.
Great. Yeah, and I think it's a good time to sort of, the content marketing pyramid, I think, is probably one that excited a lot of people and shows that you can take one idea and really, create a lot of assets around it. Can you actually give an example of that content marketing pyramid in practice, or how you've successfully, executed a campaign in that manner?
Yeah, sure. So there, let's see. If I flip back up to our resources, right? So these are people the sort of top of the pyramid stuff. And so if you look at the comprehensive guide to content marketing analytics and metrics, right? So this was an interesting one, because we actually started out doing a blog post on it, and we said, hey, you know what? Because you have to be top down all the time in the pyramid, it could be bottom up. This is a great post. It did well. Let's create a whole ebook on it. So we created an ebook on it, and we said, okay, we got the ebook. Now we're going to spend the next 3 to 5 months building other pieces of content on this, and more bite-sized pieces of content, lots of free pieces of content. So we created 2 infographics on it. We put them on our blog post. We created a couple of shorter form posts on our blog. We did 2 webinars around it. We created a slide share of it, and leading back to our ebook. And then we've done a number of contributed content or syndicated content / bylines as well based upon it, and curated lots of things around content marketing metrics as well. And we even have some curated content or quotes, if you will, from experts in the ebook. So we took to heart and sort of ate our own dog food, as you will, or as we say, and curating as well as creating our content as part of that.
Got it.
Does that add more insight there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, a question that, a listener had was, when you're curating, and doing something like you had mentioned, sort of a best of post, or you're sharing, other industry insights, is there ever a worry that, with those kind of pieces, you're driving traffic sort of away from your site and possibly to a competitor's, or, how would you kind of counter that and that concern?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a risk of that. But at the end of the day, as great as your content might be, right? As great as your content might be, as attached as you might be to your audience, they're going to go elsewhere for other perspectives, right? And they should, right? Because you want to get different perspectives, because it stimulates lots of great ideas and helps you get smarter. And so, the idea of curation is to be able to give a taste, a feel for that other content externally for your audience, and to make it easier for them to access it and to serve as a resource for your customers. Now, it's a great way to work with other parts of your ecosystem, right? To work with influencers that are across your own market, right? Because you're going to be sharing their stuff. The reason for annotating or providing your own insight is to put your stamp on some of that thought leadership that other individual did, and to put your viewpoint on it. And it adds value to your audience to hear what your perspective is.
Yeah, absolutely. And, none of us have all the answers and all the time to give them. So I think, if you're finding that folks are on that best of list, then they're already on your site. So that's a win for you. And
they'll come back, right? They'll come back. Hey, there's good stuff at this site. I'm going to bookmark this, or I want to be a regular subscriber, right?
Right. And how important do you think is adding, your own sort of spin, or, really kind of digesting the piece and giving your readers sort of your take on why you think it's valuable? So adding that little nugget of personalization when you're sharing it with your readers.
Yeah, it's a great question, Lauren, because that takes the most time. It's very similar to the evolution of Twitter, right? So, I'm saying, 2+ years ago, it's fun who you are, but we used to just, hey, what's that? Cool, share, without even reading it. And right. I think that the more advanced Twitter users now are, hey, you know what? I don't want to just automatically share everything I see. Maybe if I know somebody really well and they have great stuff, I'll share it without reading it. But the more conscientious folks that are adding more value are reading through pieces and on Twitter, and then getting back to your question, they're taking the time to understand what that piece had to say. If you annotate it, it just shows that you're thinking about your audience, the reader. You're adding your own insight, and you're bringing your own feelings into it. And if you're doing it the right way, it's only going to add more value and increase engagement.
Yeah, exactly. So the content marketing way is keeping your customer and end reader always in mind before yourself. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Non-egocentric, right?
That's right. I do have a question to switch gears a little bit. Did the importance of buyer personas come up in your research? Was that something that you guys saw a lot of or collected data around? Could you kind of speak to that a little bit? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. So, and I put this right in that strategy category, of course. And we did ask folks, if I remember correctly, we asked them if they created personas for, they created content for specific targets or segments. And the Foxes, they were thinking more about buyer personas, right? They were thinking more about the stage in the buying cycle, and ultimately, yes, you want to think about, as I'm creating content, this is up front in the strategy part, right? Who's this content for? Do we already have content, for this persona, this buying stage, or is there a gap somewhere else? And so, yeah, the smarter folks are really thinking about that, the more strategic folks about, what content do we have in each buyer persona or buying stage, and if not, we should do that, because as things get more and more advanced and evolve in this content marketing space, we're only going to move down that hockey stick. We're going to get more specific in terms of what content we have to provide for individuals.
Right.
Agreed?
I agree. I do. I have a question around budget as well. So, kind of going back to, this question of buy-in and budget and kind of making sure that you have enough. Do you have a rule of thumb for companies, and of course this is going to vary a little bit with who you're looking at and kind of their demographic and their infrastructure, but is there a rule of thumb about what percentage of your marketing budget should be invested specifically in content marketing?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lauren, because so I spent years at IDC. Every year we would do this big audit of market investment, across 150 tech market organizations, and we would go to 30 program spend areas, 15 staff areas, and dive into the guts. And then, but as content marketing, this area sort of evolved. And I looked at it, and I always think about asking this question. I think I might have asked it for this day. I don't have it in front of me though. And the data, it's all over the place. I think ultimately it's so hard because you could say, now the marketing team, big is it? Okay, that's a different question, right? And even some of the biggest companies have a handful or less than 10 people. But in terms of content marketing in general, there are lots of numbers floating around. If you folks check into the study we did, this Tactics and Technology, there's a graph in there, or ping me, I can send it to you. But it's all over the place. And the hardest part is, I don't think folks A, know, or B, they're able to sort of cut across the organization and pull it in. But I think the thing to think about is that the marketing organization as a whole is dedicated to creating content. And so it really is a matter of just coalescing the effort that many teams are already doing, right? Be it product marketing, be it the social media team is doing social curation, they're creating content. The marketing communications team, the campaign teams, the field marketing folks. So they're all creating content. It's just a matter of coalescing around a strategy and having that center of excellence.
Right. So it's almost like the one of the jokes we have is, how people are asking how long should a post be, how long should this be, and it's, the kind of tongue-in-cheek answer is as long as it needs to be. So an answer there could be
right.
as much as budget as you need to sort of get your feet off the ground. But
as much as I would say the gold at the end of the rainbow is, do you know what the impact is of your content on pipeline, right? So how many leads are generated by individual and group piece of content and groups of content? How many opportunities in the sales pipeline influence? And if you can get at those types of mix, and that's the sort of thing we've been focusing on intently over the past 12 to 18 months, not just in our software, but in our own practice here in Curata, then it'll really help you justify that investment.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, and I would be mistaken if I didn't also say that, I think a lot of us really enjoyed the imagery of your presentation today. I'm a big Minion fan myself, so certainly appreciated their shout out.
I love them.
Got a big movie coming up, I think, soon, so appropriate timing for the plug.
Yep. I have no financial benefit from that.
We'll have to look into that further. No, is there, so the editorial calendar, in terms of talking about really getting started, it's a really, obviously important thing to sort of map out and set, reasonable expectations. And, it's really proof that you got to strategize before you just pull the trigger and start writing. Otherwise it's really kind of throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping that something, gives you that ROI that you sort of seek. Do you have like a sample calendar? What editorial calendar do you guys use in particular, and what do you think are the ideal elements that should go into that effort?
Right. So we're fortunate because within the marketing group here at Curata, we're using our Curata CMP content marketing platform, and we have a timeline, an editorial calendar, and workflow built a solution that feeds our analytics engine too. So we're in that daily and do our agile marketing stand-ups every May. That we have attributes in our calendar that we've worked out over time, and there's a whole list. Happy to go through that with people in more detail, but some examples of stuff in there, in addition to the title and publish date, are we look at it, is it the content that we're producing, is it earned or paid media? Is what buyer persona is it dedicated to? What buying stage is it dedicated to? Who's the writer? Who's the author? And then who's the owner? Because those could be three different things, right? Your freelancer could be the writer. The person whose name on the piece is the author, and then who's joking? Whose head will roll if it doesn't happen, right? It's the owner. They're ultimately responsible. And so we have some other attributes in there. We also assign what the specific pyramid is. With an attribute for that specific content piece, right? And the idea, it's great managing your content to put those attributes in for your calendar, but the real, once again, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is when you can look at the analytics and you can start to group content by those different attributes or meta tags to identify, hey, what content works and doesn't work, and that's where it starts to get really fun from an analytic perspective.
Absolutely. And Michael, one final question here, and then I'd invite you to give some sort of closing thoughts. Can you provide, I think, metrics is really, going back through some of even the CMI stats, and, I think people are starting to get that content marketing is important, but in terms of really tracking ROI, it's a lot of companies are reporting that it's either not effective or slightly effective. There's not a lot of people right now who really feel that their companies are, doing a good job of tracking the value of content marketing. So can you speak a little bit to the best metrics that content marketers should be using to really see sort of, is this working or is it not?
So this is where technology has out a lot, because historically we would, from a framework perspective, I think you have your consumption engagement metrics, right? Social shares, Google Analytics, etc., and then you have this marketing part of the pipeline, sales part of the pipeline. But you can do it manually. Right? You can reach out to many different sources. You can go to your Google Analytics, pull in different UM codes for the same piece of content. You can look for Keto or Eloquor, part of these marketing automation companies, but they're really lead focused, not content focused, and they don't carry data many times past 2 or 3 months, so it's hard to look over the lifetime of content. And then Salesforce.com, there's some campaign attributes in there you can leverage, but it's very, very time consuming. So I think we really need to focus. Start off, do you have the engagement metrics at the top of the funnel? And then to go deeper is really, once again, from a marketing perspective, how many new leads am I getting into my marketing pipeline as a result of individual piece of content? What leads influencing in marketing pipelines that helps my nurturing? What about my MQs, my marketing qualified leads that I'm sending off to sales? And then very similar view for the sales side of things, right? Opportunities generated and influenced. So I think those are the key ones. This ebook we have, I put on the screen here, goes into sort of the duct tape method of that. And we're happy to discuss more and show folks how our content marketing platform, this Curata CMP, does all of that for you with a less than 20-minute integration with your marketing and sales automation solutions to really get at that data quickly.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And Michael, is there any sort of closing remarks or takeaway thoughts that you have for all of us here listening?
Yeah, I would probably say from a content marketing perspective, the most important thing is that there's no doubt there's fantastic opportunity, and I'm sure most folks on the phone get this, but we have to do our best to make sure and get in from other folks in our organization and to continue to demonstrate that the impact that we're making, and if we can do that successfully, then I think then we'll be well on the way to either continuing to be a fox or getting to that fox position. And so do tap into all the expertise that's out there, either through our resources page and the things that we have through WriterAccess resources that you have in your webinars, as well as other companies. There's lots of great stuff out there to either get smarter or get smarter on it. And then do once again work with the technology vendors. There's some great things that are happening.
Great stuff. Okay. All right. Well, I've got a couple just kind of close out slides here to go over some of the resources that will be available to everybody after we wrap up here. So if you want to kick it back over, we'll show my screen here. And yeah, I mean, thanks again, Michael, obviously for a really great presentation. I think a lot of great stuff in there to train us to all go be foxes and kind of really understand how things should work, kind of, from starting out, and then also just, all the way through making sure that there's measurement, metrics in place. So, like I said, we'll have a couple of different books here from WriterAccess. We've got the content marketing roadmap that really walks through the different levels of content marketing, optimization, strategy, ideation, and distribution, things like that. Our writing skill guide, which will tell you how to kind of align, writing skills and specifications with price points. And then, of course, the 103 content marketing tools, which includes Curata among them. So that'll be available as well, like I said, through an email follow-up. And then, we'll really end here on the book that contains a lot of the information and data that you presented with us here today, as well as a URL for everybody to go check that out and like you said, get a little bit smarter about the content marketing field, and a lot of really interesting stuff kind of in the current landscape of kind of what we're up against. So don't forget to keep your eyes peeled, everybody, for that email. And Michael, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Lauren, and thanks everyone for joining us. Really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.
All right, everybody have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next month.